Hello guys, and welcome to a new WARNO video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I'm excited to share with you an overview of the 31st Tank Division, a new Soviet division available in the SOUTHAG expansion. 8 of the divisions are released now, including this one, and available early if you own the expansion pass. Let's jump on in, and we'll go through all of the units and put together a quick deck. There's going to be a lot of stuff you've seen before here because it is a Soviet division, so I'll go through some of those quickly and we'll point out some of the new stuff. So we've got the MTLB here, 25 points, 600 supply, decent little supply carrier. Then we have the MTLBU, which is the leader for 40 points. You only get 2 on a card, unfortunately, so not as ideal. There is 2 cards of Urals with the 1000 supply for 40 points. We've got the MI8MT with the 1500 supply for 55 points. And there's also a card of Kraz, which are nice, which come with the 2000 supply. You get 3 on a card for 60 points. Then we have the Mi-22 massive helicopter. It is a leader in this deck, which is really interesting. I'm not sure if we'll see people use it as a leader, but it could be fun, just for the memes, I suppose. It's so massive that it's going to get spotted very easily. So I guess only for back caps, really, are you going to be able to use that. Then we got the BMP 1K3. You actually get 3 of these on a card. So as a leader, this is actually a pretty nice choice for this deck. And there's also the option of a fob. Moving on to the infantry, we have the PKM squads. So classic MG with 30% accuracy, 15 points, you get 12 on a card. You definitely want to up at these if you're going to plan to use them. There's also the 30mm, which is actually a pretty decent unit. 55% accuracy, 1400 meter range, great fire support for your infantry. And then we have the Kommandatura, which is your military police. They can come in with a UAZ that also gets the military police trait. Remember, military police trait grants a suppression regeneration bonus to nearby allies and removes any reservist traits from them. Really important for maintaining your cohesion across all units, really. Then we have Modostraki Komroti, which are this is the leader squad with the RPG-22 and smoke grenade. So this is like the perfect combination for me. AT plus smoke. Unfortunately, a little bit on the small side because it can get killed by stray artillery because it's only like a 4-man squad. I like to have my command squad's infantry in particular a little bit more chunky so you can keep them resupplied and healthy. But they can be brought in with the BMP-1, which does have the Fargo M with the 17 pen, 2400 meter range, so a decent transport. Then we got the Monostrelki RPG-22, which comes with the 20 round per minute rate of fire, 15 pen RPG. It's pretty good, and the best thing about these squads is they can be brought in with the BMP-2. BMP-2 is just a really solid IFV. It has the 30mm gun on it, which is pretty strong, plus the Conkers, which is a decent HGM for engaging tanks at range. So yeah, really solid. If you bring in like your Monostrelki upvetted, you get the BMP upvetted, and then it's just a really good IFV for supporting those infantry. And then we have the Monostrelki BMP. These guys come with the RPG-7VL, so you're getting more penetration and accuracy, but you're losing the rate of fire that you get from the RPG-22. So it's kind of like, depending on what you need, I would generally go for the RPG-22. I like the rate of fire. It lowers the cohesion of enemy armored vehicles very quickly. And also the APC is better, or like the IFV is better. BMP 1P is okay for the price, but it's not as good as a BMP-2. Then we have the Saperi. So Saperi Komroti, it's just a 4-man squad with an RPG-7VL, does have shock trait. Saperi, standard Saperi, 40... like this is the same as usual, so 40 points, 7 AKs, PKM satchel with 8 strength, plus the BTR 60 PB. And then the Saperi RPO, which has the RPO-A launcher, which has a 20 round per minute rate of fire. Pretty useful for just like pushing infantry out of buildings. Like if they just sit and take the hits, then they're going to have a bad time. So just good for dislodging enemy infantry. Saperi is going to be better at actually killing infantry because I feel like the Saperi RPO doesn't have the same sort of damage as it used to. Then we have the Polomachiki, so 3 MGs with the BMP as transport. Transports for all the Saperi, by the way, are just BTRs. But yeah, because it doesn't have a BMP-2, again, it's not ideal. Like, I would rather have a BMP-2 fire support than 2 extra PKMs. generally. Like if I'm comparing it to like the Motostrelki, you get the RPK 74 plus the 30mm fire support, whereas like in this case you're having the BMP 1 fire support, which is not really the same. And then we've got the first of the Czechoslovakian units. So this is a Czechoslovakian Fago. They can come in with the UAZ and the OT-64, which has that KPVT machine gun and the PKT for 30 points. It's okay. I'm surprised it doesn't go faster off-road, but it's pretty decent transport, honestly, for 30 points, I think. I think the KPVT is kind of underrated sometimes. But the HGM squad themselves is not anything special. And then we have some Czechoslovakian troops. So we've got the leader for the Strelce. These guys have 2 Scorpions, the SAVZ, the RPG-75, which is interesting. It's got 13 pen, really good rate of fire, 50% accuracy. It's kind of like an RPG-22 with like 2 less pen. It's like kind of the best way to describe that. And you also get smoke grenades. So it's a decent leader because you've got an 8 strength leader here. So I might be using a Czechoslovakian leader for all of my Soviet troops in this particular deck. Then we have the Strelci. These guys are a 9-man squad with those basically equivalent AKs with their machine guns as well, which I think is the equivalent to like an RPK 74. The reason the stats look better on this one is because I have it upbutted. But if we look at like the stat comparison, there are some slight differences here. Like aiming time is much better on the RPK. Reload time's better on the RPK. So the RPK is just like generally better. Motion accuracy is better on the VZ or on the AK over the VZ, but looks like damage is actually higher on this rifle. That's interesting. I guess that's because it's 7.62 as opposed to 5.45. Yeah, that makes sense. Regardless, pretty interesting squad with the RPG-7BL, which has good accuracy. I think as like a baseline infantry, if you're not considering the BMPs, it's not a bad choice. OT-64 is okay as well. Then finally there's a Conquer squad. So just your standard Conquers with that 20 penetration at 2,625 meter range. And moving on to artillery. We have ourselves some Czechoslovakian 80mm mortars. Then we have ourselves the Russian or Soviet 120mm mortars. Nothing special about any of this really. 120mm, 122mm, we've seen plenty of these before. I haven't really been using these all that much, but considering you can get like 8, I think in like a long 10v10, like having 8 of these working as a battery could be pretty good. You can also get the Czechoslovakian manned ones here, so in theory you could run 12 122mm, which is more than you can get with the Gvozdikas, and you do get 3 cards of Gvozdikas in this particular deck. There's also 2 cards of Akatayas, so lots of choices, but some really interesting stuff down here. We have the RMVZ51, which is an MLRS with 130mm rockets, so slightly more damage than the 122s that the Grad offers. It has 3 reloads of 32 rockets, so it's actually pretty nice for infantry support. It only has 8,200 meter range, so you have to be pretty close to use it, but it's far enough that it's not going to be like caught out by tanks and stuff. And then we have the Prima, which is like a cluster grad, and this thing is seemingly very good. I've only like fired it at like the ground to see like what the kind of rate of fire is like on it, but honestly, like with 4 penetration, you're going to be able to like smash entire like groups of tanks very easily with this, since it fires all 50 rounds at once if you don't stop it. So yeah, really interesting rocket launcher, and more MLRS to add to the 10v10. And moving on to the tank tab, we have the Malutka. This is the BRDM with the Malutka. This is a Czechoslovakian manned one. The Malutka P, it's okay. The nice thing about the Malutka in this case is they do get good stealth. So 17 pen, 2,625 meter range, you're going to be able to pick off tanks that don't have recon nearby. Then we have the T55 AM1, which is a really nice T55 because it gets 2,275 meter range. And so even though the penetration's kind of low on these, you've got to account for range scaling for one, and you've also got to account for like side shots. So one thing that catches out a lot of people is when units can fire at max range, particularly over 2,000 meters, you can pick off side shots very, very nicely with these if you pop them in the right positions. So it's kind of like a sniper T55, which is nice. And the base accuracy is really good as well. 55% is actually pretty solid. If you up at these to give them a bit of extra rate of fire and accuracy, these could be really, really nasty to deal with. And then we got some T-72s. So we got the T-72 AK OBR-79, which is the leader T-72 here of the OBR-79 variant. Then we got the standard OBR-79, which is a 19 pen 2,100 meter range with 55% accuracy. Like at close range, these are still going to be very, very strong. Like T-72s at close range are generally the way to go. And then you got the T-72 OBR-81. So the difference here is smoke. You're basically paying extra for the smoke. Otherwise, it's more or less exactly the same. It's actually quite expensive. It's like an extra 25 points for the smoke. But smoke is useful to have, for sure. But if you're playing them at close range, it doesn't really matter. Regardless, T-72 BK is the next one, and then that's the B1 variant and the B2 variant. So we got the B1 and then the B2, or sorry, just the standard B. So the B1 is like 2,100 meter range with a 90mm gun, and then like the standard T-72B has a severe upgrade. So that's why you're paying the extra 30 points for that 2,800 meter range ATGM with 21 pen. Yeah, so really nice T-72 options for sort of more close range brawling. Obviously at like longer ranges, they're going to lose out to things like Leopards and Abrams and stuff, but I would say like generally T-72s, if you keep them in cover, are going to do well regardless. We have the Recon tab. So MI2, standard 30-point MI2 with 195 speed. I mean, they're kind of slow, but they're good, very good optics with elevation, like they're up in the sky, so it's kind of nice. I've got MI24K here. These have gun pods as well as the Yak-B on the front. So going to be able to deal with infantry at closer ranges quite nicely. Like within 1,400 meters, you're going to be able to get all three of these, like the two gun pods and the gun on the front on target, plus the rockets. Yeah, on flanks, these are going to be very useful. Then we have the Plus Komunici. These are a Czechoslovakian recon squad, 4-man. Come with the OT-65 if you want it. So the UAZ or the OT-65. The OT-65 is good optics and good stealth, so pretty good for like leaving around the place. Like it's not something you need to sell. Then we have the Razvedka, standard Razvedka squad with the RPG-22. We got the Razvedka Sapere, seen these guys before with the satchel charge. Very good optics, can be brought in with the BTR or the MI2. There's a Motorazvedka, again, same as before, 7-man squad with RPG-22. Motorazvedka, pretty nice because they kind of fight reasonably well and they have an RPG-22, they're not too expensive. And in this case, they can be brought in with a Recon BMP-1, which is kind of nice. They can also be brought in with MI2, MI8, and the MI8T with rockets. So, interesting combo, but for 100 points, paying for like 64 rockets is quite expensive. Just bear that in mind, but it's still useful in a lot of situations where you're just killing infantry. Then there's 2 cards of BRDMs, you get 2 on a card. BRDMs do have that good stealth again, so that's nice. We've got the RT Razvedka. These guys have the SIGINT trait. So the way SIGINT works is there's like 2 circles, and basically the circle changes color based on if there's any units within that circle, enemy units that is. And it allows you to kind of like detect roughly where units are relative to your squad. You can kind of like use multiple of these to triangulate where units are, but in practice it doesn't really work that way. Generally it's just kind of like a early warning trigger. Like you'll see the color of the circle change and you'll know roughly where units are coming from. But yeah, good squad to have for sure. BRM 1K, great exceptional optics, just kind of lacks stealth. Good for accompanying tanks. If you keep it like just behind the tanks, the exceptional optics works quite well. Then we have a really interesting unit here, the Biman. This is like a Strela 10M basically, but instead of having like the Strela system on top, we've got the rocket system, this S8 KOM. So it's like a direct fire rocket launcher, similar to the rocket pods you get on the BTRs with like the 56th. And it can fire both HE and it can fire smoke. It also has the electro-optical dazzler, which gives it the equivalent of 10% ECM. So guided missiles have a chance of missing by 10%, basically, is how that works. I'm not sure how useful this is going to be, but it's a really interesting vehicle. Really, really interesting. There's also the Mi-8 MTPI. This is a jamming recon helicopter, has very good optics, and then the jammer trait, which basically downgrades the optics of enemy recon using radar and prevents GSR activation and cancels artillery correction within the area of effect. So jamming is pretty nasty. And the nice thing about the jammer, I'm not sure if they changed it, but you can land jammers and they still work. So you can kind of land a jammer behind a tree line and it will still jam in like a big radius. And they have good ECM anyway, so yeah, overall, fantastic helicopter. Then we have AA, so Strela 2M. These guys are not that great. Like, it's like a Fliegerfaust. 35% accuracy for HE. Pretty trash man-pad squad. Su-23 is the classic twin 23 mil. We've got the Igla squad in there. Iglas are pretty standard, so 50% accuracy, 2,650 meter range with 4 HE. You probably want to upvet these at least to get a bit more accuracy on them if you're going to use them. Then we have the Yeshturka, which is what people would know as the Praga or Past Praga in Wargamer Dragon. So it's a twin 30 mil. I think these can be really, really ruthless. Since they do have a bit of armor, you're going to be able to use them against enemy infantry quite well, and not be taking damage. And they have 2,650 meter range against helicopters. Yeah, I think because of the 0.6 HE, they're going to have a decent amount of DPS. They've got great rate of fire, of course. I think this could be really good. And then we've got the Berusa, which is technically a quad 23, but you can see the HE here overall is actually less than that of the double. I feel like Berusas are kind of generally underpowered, but they can target aircraft pretty well. So 2,800 meter range against aircraft, so you can use them to kind of get that extra little bit of damage on target when they get hit by a missile. Then we have the MTLB Strela 10M. This has the 2,800 meter range, so yeah, really solid infrared AA. And then there's the Cub as well, which is solid long range AA. So you've got decent AA options here for sure. Helitab, Mi-8 MT with a lot of rockets, so 32 per pod, or I guess it's not per pod, it's like per 2 pods is 32 technically, 16 per pod, and you get 6 pods. But because they're like split up 3 ways, it basically increases their rate of fire. Like that's what it does in reality. Like, it's not like if this was 6, they'd fire even faster, I imagine. But regardless, 100 points, they're okay. And we got the Mi-24V, which is S13 rockets with Cocons, and the Mi-24V with S8 KOMs, so 80 mil rockets with Cocons. Both of these are very nice, and I think this one in particular is great. Like, S13s on helicopters allows you to get the damage down quickly and get out of there. And you can just use the Cocon at 2,800 meter range if you need to. And then this one, it just has more Cocons and less rockets, which is okay as well. It just depends what you need it for. Most of the time, I like the ones that have these rockets. The S13s are going to be very useful. Air tab here, it's very limited. So MiG-23 ML with 3 infrared missiles, actually 6 infrared missiles, sorry. It's got 2 sets of R60Ms. So decent for shooting down enemy helicopters because it can fire both of these at the same time. The fire and forget as well, so you don't need to like be gunner running towards it in order to hit. Yeah, decent. Then we got the MiG-27M, which has the HE, so 4 500 kilogram bombs. We got the MiG-27 with 4 500 kilogram bombs. I think the HE one's going to be decent. The Napalm one, not as much. And then we got the MiG-27K 82, which comes with fire and forget air-to-ground missiles, which are going to be very good. So 30 pen, 3,500 meters, 50% accuracy. You're going to be able to just like fly this sort of close to an enemy ground tank or something, and pop them quite nicely. Just bear in mind that that is pretty short range. So yeah. Either way, let's go ahead and put together a quick deck. So going to the logistics tab, we have ourselves the Mi-22. No, we're going to put in the BMP-1K3. I'm probably going to use a fob here. We'll put the BMP-1K3 in there. We'll put the Kraz and some Urals. I think is probably going to be the way I go with that. Infantry tab. I don't think this is going to be super crazy. I kind of want some Plamier 30mm. We definitely want some upvetted BMP2s. I'm going to bring the Czechoslovakian leader. We'll definitely bring in the Sapari with the BTR. We'll probably just bring in like 8 of those. And then, yes, it's basically, what do I want between Streltsy and Monostrelki? I think we'll just bring in some Streltsy. See how they perform. Let's do that. Cool. Alright, artillery. We're definitely going to go like full rocket, boy. You kind of have to in this deck. These are just so cool. I don't know about these. I might just bring one. And then I'm thinking either Akatsayas or maybe I could actually bring in some 122s. How fast is this transport? It's like 60, 90, as opposed to 65, 90, or 50, 75. The MTLB might be a good choice here, actually, as a transport, because it is armored. So we'll bring them in with an MTLB. Cool. Then we can go in the tank tab, and we bring, I think we're going to bring these at 2-vet. I'm going to use them like sniper tanks. We've got leader there, we've got leader there. We might not need a leader in the infantry tab, especially since we get some pretty decent T-72 leaders. Like 18 front armor, T-72 BK is nice. I think we go and we bring up T-72B1s, we bring up T-72Bs. There's a lot of room here for tanks. So I'm thinking we bring in those leaders, then we drop out the infantry leader, sorry, and we bring in some like Conkers or something like that would be a good idea. We still have more slots here. I'm thinking what might be nice. Oh, this does get 2 more front armor. Yeah, I completely missed that, didn't I? Obviously. Yeah, so you get 2 more front armor plus smoke. Well, these have smoke anyway. But yeah, I'm just going to bring those in at high vet. I don't know, that extra armor is kind of nice. Especially since it's like not exactly expensive to bring them. Lots of high veterancy. Thanks. Cool. Let's move on to the recon. We got to try this, right? I'll bring it in with extra veterancy. Actually, it doesn't look like that affects like accuracy at all, so let's just bring them in without. We'll definitely bring in the MI8. We'll do the RT Rosetka. BRM's always useful. And I'm thinking maybe an MI24K. But we might take that out if I need the points. We'll bring in these. Definitely Stralos, definitely Cubs. Maybe a card of Iglas. For the helis, I think we're going for definitely these. And then air tab. I think we need MiG-23s and MiG-27s, and that should be fine. I don't think I need anything else. I mean, if I drop a 3-pointer here, we can get another plane if we wanted to. Maybe some more MiG-27s would be better than those helicopters. But I think that's where I'm going to leave it. So 31st tank. Cool. The 31st Tank Division. It looks good. It looks good, to be honest. It's kind of like very Soviet with a little bit of Czechoslovakia sprinkled on top. I think like the premium units, like the cluster grads, are gonna be really, really good. They got some really interesting units to try out, like the rocket recon, which I did try, and it is pretty fun to use. I just don't know how effective it's actually going to be against infantry, because I didn't fire an infantry. I just went into like a solo game and just fired it at the ground to see how it works. But yeah, the tanks, T-72s are going to be really strong. I mean, T-72s have always been pretty decent, and this is going to take full advantage of that. So I think it's going to be a decent division for sure. You're a little bit light on infantry quality, so you might get pushed out of like towns and heavy cover, like forests, but the T-72s should be able to support with that pretty nicely. And you got the T-55s like sniping at max range. So yeah, really cool, really cool. Alrighty, that's it for now. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.